Hey you guys, are you ready for part 2? Like I said at the end of part 1, we're picking up with Aquarius I Know, which of course my immediate reaction is trust in your inner knowing. Of course, like we've been talking about, right? Connecting with your intuition and learning how to silence anything else that's not your intuition, whether it's man or spirit. Also, the corresponding tarot is the Star card, which is trusting that you're on the right path and that everything is going to work out, that everything's going to come together and you can like expect the happy outcome. You can't see it yet, but it is coming. It is on its way and you can trust that. I wrote down, you are on the right path. So this is going to be, I started off with coming from the card, okay? The card specifically. You are on the right path. Even if you can't see everything going on and you're struggling in your faith, your angels and your guides are asking you to trust. Tests are to be expected. They don't mean you're on the wrong path. Actually, the more you're tested, the more likely you are to be on the right path because it's negativity and the dark trying to throw you off and take you on a detour. For those of us on the ascension path, it's never easy. If it's easy, then we're being led astray. It will get easier and better, but stay guarded as we are always being watched in various ways. Okay, I know that there's a few things there. Yes, it will get easier and better as you reach certain culmination points in your journey. Let me say this. I don't think that my twin flame and I will ever fully be in the clear. Like there's always going to be a target on our backs essentially, because, and not just us, everybody, all twin flames, we're light workers. We are meant to carry out good in the world. My cat is attacking his tail. It's a little distracting. Anyway, we are meant to help the ascension process and carry out good in the world, and the dark is always going to be trying to attack that in various ways. Now, you will reach points where that's going to lessen and go away as you complete the necessary lessons, as you close the necessary cycles. It will get better. Abundance will come in the ways that it's meant to. But there's a difference between like the minor things that are distractions versus like the major events that are really trying to pull you away from your path and distract you or cause you problems. I know that I have this in here somewhere else, but I also want to say when it says tests are to be expected, I heard a quote recently that said, faith is worthless if left untested. And this, I feel like it applies here too. Like we have to understand that life on earth is not meant to be easy. This is a concept. I know I discuss it later. Maybe I'll talk about it now and I won't have to talk about it again later. But this is a concept that is very difficult for people to accept and to fully wrap their heads around because they don't want to. Like earlier when I was talking about getting mad at spirit because spirit doesn't always tell us the most accurate, truthful answer if we're not supposed to know it at that time. It kind of goes along those lines. Like everybody wants to believe that the meaning of life is to just live a happy life and be blissful and content and never struggle and never have any problems. That is not the meaning of life on Earth. Earth is a 3D planet. Earth is a teaching school. I believe that all 3D planets are teaching schools that have the polarity of the light and the dark for a reason. I did that wrong because I was doing the opposite in the other video, the light and the dark. They have polarity for a reason, for the lessons that we're going to learn. The dark, the negative aspects, the difficulties that we go through are the ways that we are taught lessons. If you saw my video from October 2023 discussing the soul mastery programs, souls start off with an individual soul mastery program, and then they go into the twin flame mastery program, and then they go into the ascended master mastery program. And this entire soul mastery process is all part of souls learning the lessons that they are supposed to learn as they progress through different stages of enlightenment. And ultimately, I believe that it leads the souls back to source. But that's in the spiritual realm. I don't know exactly. I haven't asked all those questions, but I do know that souls go through the soul mastery process where they learn all of these things, and that's what the purpose is of incarnating on each planet. Like this is one life in one body in one lifetime in this soul ascension cycle. Each soul ascension cycle is 12,000 years. This is one lifetime in those 12,000 years soul ascension cycle. This one lifetime is insignificant in the grand scheme of things when it's the soul that is the bigger thing and it has the higher purposes. And the soul incarnates on 3D planets like Earth or in other worlds that might not be 3D. They might be 60, 70, 80, 90. Galactic worlds go from 3D through 90 dimension, third dimension through ninth dimension. And each world has, or each density, each world and the different densities and dimensions have different levels of like purposes and what you're meant to learn and experience in your soul mastery process. So 3D planets, 3D worlds, it's the toughest lessons. You know, their evil and darkness doesn't exist in the higher dimensional worlds. It only exists in the 3D worlds. 60 and higher, evil doesn't exist in the same way. There is evil in higher densities, but it's not the same thing as a world that holds evil frequencies. Like the evil frequencies exist at the third and fourth density, or I shouldn't even say evil, but you know what I mean. I'm trying to say it in ways that you guys understand also. So the worlds in the higher densities, they just don't exist in the same way. Even the bodies and the minds and the way the beings connect with each other are different. Like there are galactic beings around us here on Earth, but we can't see them because they are vibrating at higher frequencies. So just like cats and dogs and animals, I shouldn't just say cats and dogs, and animals can see and hear other frequencies that humans can't. It's the same thing with elementals and spirits and galactic beings. Galactic beings aren't really spirits, but humans call them spirits because they can't see them. But galactic beings are just souls incarnated in bodies, just like we are, except that they're vibrating at other frequencies because they're from other worlds and other densities and dimensions. So that being said, just a little side note, if somebody says spirit, if I say spirit, it really does depend on what it is. Elementals are like, I actually don't really know exactly what the definition of elementals is, but I think of like fairies and dragons and unicorns, and entities are also elementals. Just fourth density spirits. Let's leave it at that. Ghosts are in the fourth density also. Ghosts are souls that have not fully gone back to where they came from, where they're meant to be. Like they're ghosts are people or animals who had like a traumatic death or something that they didn't fully cross over the way they were supposed to, but crossing over is really just going back to the 10th dimension, which is where, is it the 10th dimension or the 11th dimension? I have to go back to my notes. It might be the 11th dimension actually, where souls reside when they're not incarnated in bodies, which is what people would consider heaven, even though it's not exactly the same as what we were taught. But anyway, so ghosts are just souls that, or soul fragments. Ghosts are soul fragments that were traumatized in death and didn't fully leave the third density like they were, the third and fourth density like they were supposed to. So anyway, so galactic beings would be from that 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th dimensions and densities. I don't believe that the 5th one has its own like worlds. I think it's 60 and higher. I think the 5th density is more of like a mindset type of, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe there's 5D worlds also. But anyway, so that's the galactic. And then above that, 10th, 11th, 12th, those are the higher dimensional spiritual beings. The angels, I believe, are in the 10th dimension. The souls that are not incarnated, our souls that are not incarnated into bodies, are in the 11th dimension, if I recall correctly. And ascended masters are in the 10th, 11th, and 12th dimension, but the highest is like which one they're at is dependent on like how advanced they are. So like Jesus and the other most advanced ascended masters are in the 12th dimension. Like the newer ascended masters are in the 10th dimension, and they work their way up. And every soul is going through a process of becoming an ascended master eventually as they work through the soul development program and after they work through all of the lessons they're supposed to learn. So I've really digressed. I've really tangented. Let's bring it back around. Third density worlds like Earth. The purpose is not to come and just be blissfully happy all the time. You are supposed to learn lessons. You're supposed to go through trials and tribulations and difficulties in order to learn those lessons. You're supposed to have negative experiences, and that's why, like I was talking about in the first video, you have with the light and the polarity of the light and the dark, or the duality, however you want to think of it. The light is in charge of the positive experiences and the dark is in charge of the negative experiences. And you have soul contracts with the entities, and the entities are putting you through the lessons, the trials, the tribulations, the negative experiences that your soul signed up for when incarnating on this planet. So if you are mad about the stuff you're going through in your life, take it up with your soul. Take it up with your higher self. Your higher self is the one who planned your life and who put it in your soul contract and decided that this is what you're going to go through. Your own soul, your own higher self signed up for it. So be mad at God, be mad at spirit, be mad at yourself, your higher self. But when you go through difficulties in your life, it's because your soul signed up for it. And it's because on these 3D planets, that's what you're supposed to go through in order to learn the lessons for your soul growth process and your soul development process. And that, wrapping your head around all of that and accepting it is its own level of grief, release, and acceptance. So anyway, so we were talking about being tested. I don't even remember where I went off on a tangent. There was probably a point in there that I forgot. But anyway, you're going to be tested because you don't really have true faith if you're not tested and lean into your faith anyway. So you have to trust that you're on the right path. You have to have that blind faith. Spirit forces you to have that blind faith. And I want to say also, when I say spirit, it's important to remember that I also mean your higher self. I know I've already said that, but it's very important to realize that your higher self is taking the lead on all of this because your higher self pre-designed your path and your soul contracts. So everything you're going through, your higher self, your spirit guides, and source directly is all expecting you to have that complete blind faith in the process and in your journey, and to follow down your path. And part of your soul lessons along the way is that process of accepting that and following your guidance to follow your soul path, despite not having evidence, despite not having validation, despite having to have complete blind faith and being tested along the way. Like I was saying earlier, you're going to be tested on discernment. You're going to be tested on your faith. You're going to be tested on a lot of things. Whatever it is you're struggling with, you're going to be tested on it. Expect to be tested on it. Expect to be tested on it until you're passing, until it's not bothering you anymore, until you've accepted it. And that is part of your soul growth process. Do you see how Earth sucks in ways? Like, when I have struggled with all of this, I have felt like we are just in a petri dish with like a giant scientist creator observing us to see how we react to different things and to see how we go about our lives. And that's what our souls do. Our souls incarnate to go through all of these things, to learn the lessons, and Adjustments are made on the spiritual side as we go, as we learn, as we make choices with our free will as well, because our free will can cause delays or help the process along if we are in resistance or fighting the soul lessons. So, anyway, you will be given visions of the future, even if it's not shown in 3D tangible ways. This is why you are being challenged to tap into your spiritual psychic abilities and learn to trust. The faith wound is significant, and conquering it is one of our biggest lessons on this ascension path. Learn to trust your visions and insight, both into and from the higher echelons. I think it's funny that then I talked about the faith wound here, and I didn't even read ahead. But yeah, so that plays into everything I was just discussing. The energy of Aquarius is in all of us as new earth facilitators. Aquarians are stubborn in their views, even when they appear to be off the wall to others. The fight for their freedom of independent thinking and of independent being. Accordingly, they also tend to be artists or inventors. Although I was going to say innovators, and that's actually better, I think. Accordingly, as ascension... Oh, excuse me, I said that wrong. Because we are ascension aids, it is our job to pave new paths, to defy barriers of thinking and to defy barriers of being, to point out truths that only we can see, because our frequency is rising, so we are now able to see and hear more than what others can. That's like I was talking about earlier, that on the ascension path, you can see and see things that those on the lower path can't see. We cannot succumb to pressure, limits, or expectations to keep our light dim in order to fit into the world around us. The world is crumbling. Like, it's literally crumbling as we know it, as we speak. We are the ones building the new foundation for New Earth, hence it being New Earth facilitators. We may stay stubborn in proclaiming what we know to be true, even if others can't see it yet. Keep an eye out for your soul tribe. You will be connecting with and working with more and more of your soul family, soul group, and soul family, which there's a slight difference, and you will be accomplishing great things with them together as New Earth is built. You will work together with them to help create New Earth and to help create it in your community. Some of it will be in your physical community and some of it will be in your online community, but spread out in different important parts of the world. Let me quickly explain the difference between soul group and soul family. So if you watched that video from October 2023, where I discuss the Twin Flame Mastery Program and the different types of Twin Flames. In the Twin Flame Mastery Program, one soul splits and splits and splits and splits and splits and splits 12 times. The first time, 1 becomes 2. The second time, 2 becomes 4. The third time, 4 becomes 8. And then 8 becomes 16. And then 16 becomes 32. And then 32 becomes 64. And keep going up till 12 splits. That is the soul group. That's the twin flame soul tree. Okay. I'm not going to go into deeper depth in that. Go back and watch that video if you want to understand that more. But the one soul enters the Twin Flame Mastery Program, and it splits in the first soul ascension cycle, and then it splits again in the second soul ascension cycle, and you go through 12 soul ascension cycles, and the souls split again at the beginning of every soul ascension cycle. And that's how you go from 1 to 12 times whatever, or I don't know. We're getting in the thousands, so I don't know the math, okay? So that is your soul group, because all of the souls are connected to each other. That's where false twin flames come from, and that's where I can't think of another term, but mainly let's just say false twins. When you connect with people and like you have like an instant connection, sometimes it's soul group and sometimes it's soul family. But actually, I'm not even gonna be, they can both feel like that. That's not something that helps differentiate, unfortunately. Anyway, false twin flames is the main example I can give you, because they feel like a twin flame, and you might even be meant to experience the beginnings of a twin flame journey with them, because they are like the first catalyst, but they're not your true twin flame who you're meant to end up meant to end up with, and that's because they're in your twin flame soul group, and you've even had past lives being with them also. But anyway, but you also have friends that you meet who are in your soul group, who you have been close with in many lifetimes because your souls are that closely connected, being from the same twin flame soul tree. Okay, hopefully that helps explain it enough, but go back to that other video if not. Soul family is like soulmates, except that they're not necessarily romantic. Soul family, they have their own soul groups if they're in the twin flame mastery program, but they're just someone who is meant to be in your life, that you have a natural connection with, that you've probably had lifetimes with as well, and they're like a soulmate except platonic. So when this talks about soul tribe, it can be either. They each serve their own purposes. The soul family is more likely to solely be a support, potentially romantic, but primarily a support, a friend, something like that. Sometimes they teach lessons also, and sometimes they're temporary, but more likely emotional support, whether it's short-term or long-term. Soul group members, I should say, they can take on any roles. Some of them are like soul family, where you're meant to be close with them and a support throughout your life. But some of them you have karmic cycles with that need to be healed and released, and it can turn bad, and then you can like separate from them permanently because it ends up like having a toxic side to it, because that's someone that is triggering a soul lesson. So, but soul group, some of your soul group members can be the people closest to you as well. In any case, they're all soul tribe. They're all meant to be in your life for a reason. Okay, now where was I? Okay, going back to the soul tribe thing. You will likely meet many of them online, all across the world and cultures, because the new earth creators were spread out far and wide across the earth, grid work and ley lines, excuse me. Even if you don't know it yet, you may have already been protecting and upkeeping Earth's energy centers and network. This also means meaning like your higher self does that when you sleep too, and you don't even know. This also means people of a variety of identities and beliefs. So don't limit yourself, and don't limit yourself in who you can meet and connect with and form relationships and connections with. It is possible to align within a political spectrum while also being open-minded to see and understand others and their unique role in the world. Okay, so one of the things that Spirit talks about here, Spirit wanted me to talk about the timeline shifts, but I already talked about the bifurcation and the different timelines, so I don't need to fully explain that. But one of the things that Spirit wants me to talk about here is that there are things that are going to happen in the world, like advancements and growth and similar things, that they're a natural part of this process for both timelines. And one of the things that I'm seeing with the 4D thinkers, remember we talked about those strictly on the 3D, those on the 5D, and those on the 4D. A lot of the 4D thinkers and people that are on the ascension path, but they can't fully discern yet, they are seeing different ideas and advancements in the world that are, whether they're already happening or they're being discussed. They're seeing them and they're only associating them with the lower timeline. They're not seeing the possibilities of them with the higher timeline. It is important to understand that all of these things happening, they can be connected to either timeline. If they are connected to the higher timeline, or I shouldn't even say if, I should say where they are connected to the higher timeline, of course they don't have the negative attributes that are connecting them to the lower timeline. It just depends on how it's coming about, who's facilitating it, and just a variety of factors that I can't even fully explain myself at this stage. It's important to understand that not every single person in charge in the world has negative intentions or is a is an evil, deep state, cabal, whatever person, reptilian in disguise, trying to control the world and people and siphon their energy and all that stuff. A lot of them are, but not all of them. So, though you have to, this is where the discernment comes in. You have to be able to discern between who has good energy and positive intentions and who doesn't. And there's actually even some who are neutral and they align where they feel called to and where they see best. I want to use one example because I don't know how to explain that without using an example. So Elon Musk. Some of what I know about him is from me talking to spirit, and some of it is from what I have seen from the spiritual teachers that I do trust and still pay attention to. Elon Musk has neutral energy. He's not of the light, he's not of the dark. He's just neutral. I believe that a huge reason why he is neutral is because Elizabeth April looked into him and looked at his Akashic records and soul contract and discussed it in videos. And which you can find on YouTube, by the way, and also on her website. And she said that sovereignty is hugely important to him. I believe that the reason why his energy is neutral is because he's so sovereign that he doesn't want to choose any side. He just wants to be himself, and he wants to follow his soul path and soul contract. And he's a higher galactic being incarnated here to help the world ascend. What Elizabeth April saw in his Akashic records is that he plays a critical role in the ascension of the planet. And because of that, even though he's in neutral energy, he is choosing to align himself with the light and with the higher path and timeline. Does he fully understand this? Not really. He's, following his intuition. He's following his inner guidance system and his inner knowing as he is going down his path. I fully expect that he, as well as everybody else, is going through their own personal process of awakening and all of that. But as far as his energy and soul contracts and everything, like, he's neutral because he's so sovereign in being true to himself and his journey and contracts, but his soul is aligning him, is taking him down the path of aligning with the light, because he plays a critical role in his soul contracts with helping the earth ascend. Now, I know that there's a lot of 4D people who believe that he's bad because a lot of the different things that he different things that he is in charge of and is developing and growing. AI is a significant one, among other examples. I'm just going to say that. So there has been a lot of talk in the last couple months about different advancements that are being discussed and developed. And of course, I had a moment myself of stepping back and thinking, like, a good portion of the population knows that that's not a good thing. So why are these people that I trust, as spirit has guided me to trust, like Elon Musk, from what I have learned and whatnot, and from what I have seen with different people that they are truly of the light and are helping humanity, I have felt, well, why are they bringing up these certain things that are that the awakened people would not expect to be good, that they would expect to be a bad thing? And what I realized was, sorry, I have an itch. What I realized was that it's because of free will. There's multiple reasons, but because of free will, it's a choice point for one thing. Like, humanity has to be free to choose. Like, are you going to choose to take something that's bad for you, or to do something that's bad for you, whatever it is? Or are you going to reject it? So choice is important for one thing. And because it's partially choosing the ascension path or not choosing the ascension path. And it's important for humans to have that choice. That it's part of the rules for Earth. But then the other thing is, we have to understand, this is what I was saying before, who is in charge is important. So, oh my God, what the heck? Sorry. I don't know if it's a hair or what. Anyway, we know that there are negative, dark, evil people in the world with negative intentions for the world. At least I assume that most of you watching know this and understand this. They are absolutely carrying out a negative plot, plan, agenda for these different technologies and advancements, whether it's AI or other stuff. And then there's also people who are not, people who are of the light, who are good, or like Elon Musk, who are neutral but aligning themselves with the light higher path. And they don't have the negative intentions to do that. They are going to develop the same things, but in a way that doesn't have whatever is bad about it. I can't be more specific than that because I'm not using specific examples, but hopefully that makes sense. And then another thing that Elizabeth April saw about Elon Musk as well, she actually specifically looked at like his involvement with AI, which is why I brought that up, because I remember her talking about it. But that's not the only thing either, of course. But she was saying that what she was seeing about him, both just in his energy and in his contracts, is that because of his role contracted with helping the world and humanity, he feels almost like a duty to be the leader and be in charge of certain things, to keep it in the right hands, to keep it from being taken out of control or down a dark path. So that's another thing that's important to understand, like whether AI or mRNA cancer treatments and vaccines or whatever are developed, or med beds or other technological advancements, like they're all going to continue to be developed, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. What you need to pay attention to is who's in charge and the energy and intentions around it, and discern, is it something that is being developed by someone on the dark timeline, or is it something being developed and controlled by someone on the higher timeline? That on the higher timeline, that should be safe. That's a good thing. It's moving us in the right direction. Everybody needs to understand that both of these timelines, as they continue and as they progress, they're going to look very similar. They're going to look extremely similar, but they are significantly different because of the intentions and energy behind the people in charge of them and controlling them and developing them, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's really important to remember. I love how the light is coming in from the window now, and shining on my other hand. Anyway, so I hope that makes sense, because it was kind of hard to talk about with not having a ton of examples. And I'm also intentionally not bringing up specific names and things because I know that a lot of people don't fully realize all of this yet. And I don't want prejudgments to stop you in your tracks. I want it to help you in your awakening process without getting too specific, so that you can just allow it all to develop at the pace that you need, if that makes sense. So anyway, just keep that in mind, that as ascension progresses, you have these two timelines, and events are going to be occurring on both timelines that are going to look very similar, but some are in the right hands and some are in the wrong hands, and you just have to be able to discern between that. Okay. And remember what I said in the first video too, about people on the higher timeline can see things on the lower timeline that the people on the lower timeline can't see, and the people on the lower timeline definitely can't see the things on the higher timeline. And that's something that's playing out, and that we all are going to be learning to navigate together, because none of us have been through this process before, at least not in this awake, aware lifetime. Maybe our souls have, and our soul memories will help us. But anyway, You'll be tested on discernment for what is right and true and good for you and versus what isn't. The key is if it's forced or if it's a choice. These are necessary choice points. And sometimes it's good to have people that are more trustworthy in control of these things. The question is more so about us learning who we can trust, right? And that's where the discernment comes in. Anyway, be open-minded as well in your own pursuits and goals, as your higher self and your guides will lead you down paths that you may have never dreamed of, mastering new skills, creating new projects, paths, or inventions, or anything else. Who knows? The sky's the limit. Whatever it will be will lead you to greater awareness and success. Be open to anything and trust the plan. Okay, now we have Capricorn. I use all the gifts and tools available to me in pursuit of my life and my soul purpose path. With this 3D shedding that is happening, releasing of the 3D, the ego death, the 3D conditioning, all of that stuff, the corresponding tarot is the Devil card. And the Devil card is here to say to you that you are going to be forced to dig in, to do the hard work, to go through the heavy shadow work, and to clear away any and all lower fear-based energies weighing you down. And that reminds me, I started to talk about this in the first video and I must have tangented and forgot. So when I was talking about the two different timelines, because this is more distinct between the two timelines, I know I talked about people still having cords and cycles and connections, pulling them away from the higher timeline, connecting them to the lower timeline. And I talked about how it's important to release those and keep your energy and your frequency high to stay on the higher timeline. So this is where this comes in, where I got sidetracked. Because we're at such a pivotal point in the bifurcation process, everybody now collectively as a whole is really being forced at this time, put in that vice. Remember when I was talking about being in a vice and being forced to cut those cords, let go of those cycles and those people and those lessons. Anything that is pulling, if you are meant to be on the ascension timeline and you're meant to complete that process in this lifetime, you are now being forced to cull and to get rid of all of that lower timeline stuff, all of those lower timeline connections. You're still going to see it. You're still going to see them. It's not going to completely disappear on you, but you're going to be forced to shed all of that. So if you right now are really going through it, like this, what did that card say? The Devil card is here to say that you're going to be forced to dig in, to do the hard work, to do the heavy shadow work, to clear away any lower fear-based energies weighing you down. That's what this is. If you have found yourself in the last 2 months really purging, really going through struggles as you're like dealing with different people or situations that are testing you and pushing you and whatever, it doesn't even matter what it could be, but you're really purging and struggling, this is what's happening. This is almost certainly what's happening, that your own spirit guides and spirit team are pushing you through this purging process of releasing all of the 3D stuff, all of the cords and contracts and connections to the lower timeline that are holding you back, so that you can fully go down your higher path. I don't know what the fuck it is. It feels, I swear, our fairies like tickling my nose right now. It keeps coming back. I don't know what it is. It feels like fairies holding a feather, picking it on my nose. Anyway, where was I? If you have been resisting, you won't have a choice much longer. You can do this the easy way or the hard. They're switching to the other side. Ugh. You can do this the easy way or the hard way. Both may hurt. But would you prefer to make the choice yourself or be forced down that path? It is easier if you make the choice yourself. A dark night of the soul may be happening or may start. It doesn't have to be that bad. It can be lesser triggers or shorter purging processes. It just depends on each person and where you are at in this process. And I have to say, like, I went through a lot of this last year and probably the year before that. Yes, 2023 and 2024, I feel like, is when I went through a lot of this stuff. It wasn't so much on my twin flame journey, a little bit on my twin flame journey, but it was in other aspects of life that Spirit was making me let go of things and teaching me different lessons. And like, I haven't been feeling this year. I know there was a lot of karmic cycles that were completed for me, like even through December, beginning of January. It was mid-January when things started to shift positively. So maybe I went through it to be able to explain it to you guys now. I don't know, but expect, if you haven't gone through that process yet, expect it to start if it hasn't already, or understand that that's what you are going through now. Okay. Know that it's coming up in order for you to fully cut all of your cords that are connecting you to distorted perceptions and realities in the lower 3D timeline, to align you with your higher dimensional self, your higher self, and your ascension path, which is how you achieve twin flame union as well, okay? With our 3D conditioning and science-backed focus, evidence-based focus, we usually want solid physical evidence of things. But this journey doesn't just ask us to trust and believe in what's invisible. It demands that we do so. I was talking about this earlier, the blind faith stuff. This journey forces us, this twin flame journey and ascension journey, forces us to conquer that faith wound. You will be put through the experiences that force you to let go of the need for that physical proof. The more you can lean into faith in your twin flame, faith in spirit, faith in your higher self, and faith in everything, faith that everything in literally all ways will be okay, detach, trust, and surrender, the sooner it will be painful. Let me reread that, because the sooner that you can surrender to that complete faith in everything, in your twin flame, in your higher self and spirit guides, complete faith that everything will be okay, that you're on the right path, the sooner you can surrender to that, detach from trying to control, detach from expectations, detach from timing, that is when it will start to be less painful and easier. And I actually want to go back to a quote. I wrote this down from a spirit chat for a client, and I saved it for this too because I think everybody needs to hear it. It was about her twin flame, of course. And Spirit said, "You are guiding him even if and when you don't even realize it. Expect your guides to keep you both on track. There are never any mistakes. Don't doubt the plan. Stay in alignment. All is well." That's really important to remember. And Spirit has said this so many times. It's an exact quote in my head that I repeat to people all the time. Everything happens perfectly. There are never any mistakes. Don't doubt the plan. Your higher self and your spirit team has everything under control. Even if little adjustments have to be made here and there because of your free will choices, they count. If you think about it, they account for that as well. Like, I don't know how far in advance they know this, but they know what choices you're going to make as well. And that's why they keep putting you through experiences and testing you until you start making the right choices to stay on your soul path. But particularly for those who are on the ascension path, soul will overrides free will. So free will choices can only take you on another learning detour until you are ready to complete the lesson and come past the test. Your soul will is what is guiding you, is what designed your path and your plan, and is leading you forward. And everything you experience is just part of your learning process. Even if you make a free will choice that goes on a detour, there are never any mistakes. They know that you're going to do that, and it's part of your lessons and part of it's part of your growth process. Now, where was I? Okay. It's time to focus on the work that needs to be done for yourself. This is for your soul path, your ascension path, and your twin flame journey. It's all the same. It's all one. This is not for the 3D world, even though some of it will be connected to that in terms of finance. But you're being pushed now to focus for yourself on your soul path and whatever that may be and whatever it connects to. At the same time, it's also important to maintain a proper balance for yourself. Don't overwork yourself. Still spend time in self-care. And actually, what the point here was, you need to dig in and do the work on yourself and for your soul journey, for your soul path, for your life purposes. But Spirit is saying, at the same time as we want you to dig in and do that work, we don't want you to like overdo it, killing your 3D body at the same time. That's where they're saying, don't overdo it. Spend time in self-care. Part of the lessons that I've gone through in the last 2 years has been in balance, work-life balance, and not burning myself out. I pulled cards for myself the other day, and literally one of them said, don't burn yourself out. Those weren't the 100% exact words, but it was close enough. It was like, caution, don't burn out, or something like that. Super close. I'm like, okay, I'll calm down and trust. Spend time meditating and spend time in introspection, because that is part of your inner work process, and it's also not overdoing it on the work side. Like, so when you're digging in and doing the inner work, like, you're going to have periods of purging and releasing. You're going to have periods of working hard at your life purpose work. You're going to have periods of meditating. You're going to have periods of just like recharging out in nature. You know, find a balance. And then of course the quality time with your family and your friends and whatnot too. And that's part of bringing joy into your life. And that's a different type of self-care. It's all important, and you have to have a balance between all of them. Work doesn't have to mean toiling away. That is the 3D definition. Your soul path is different, and doing that inner work for yourself and your journey is about the combination of all of those things I just said. The Capricorn goat also represents those who climb the steepest cliffs in their pursuit of success and victory. And I felt that this message here is important, especially for those of you who are dealing with a lot of spiritual warfare, which is not fun. And it feels like one of the hardest things that you can go through when you're in the depths of it. For some, your path may not be easy. It may feel impossible at times, but it can be achieved as long as you don't give up. If that is your path, know that you have the power and the strength within you to achieve it. Accordingly, you will achieve success greater than you can imagine. So basically, the more difficult your journey is, you can't even imagine how great it's going to be afterwards when you reach the culmination point and the reward stage. What did that say? Goats represent those who climb the steepest cliffs in their pursuit of success and victory, and they do achieve that success and victory. Put in the hard work, and your life purpose and soul purpose will soar further than you realize, and your twin flame connection and journey will soar further than you realize. The journey may be slow and steady, but slow and steady won the race. The outcome will be solid and lasting. Trust the pace that it unfolds. Your higher self and your spirit guides know best what that is, partially because humans learn at the pace that they learn. Everybody wants to rush things. Everybody wants things to happen like overnight, but it just doesn't happen that fast. It takes time for us to learn the lessons, to integrate them properly, to fully understand different things, to learn how to use our gifts and to practice and develop with them. It all takes time. So be patient and trust the process and the timing, because your higher self and your spirit team know best. Everything must happen in its own time, not in your 3D time. Your 3D time is a control issue from the lower 3D energies that spirit is forcing you to let go of, like literally forcing you to let go of that. All the right people who are meant to support you along the way, your soul tribe, will come to you at the right time as well. Some may be mentors or teachers, some may be friends, some may be clients or assistants, some may be lovers, some may be animals or elementals. They can take on any form. Be open to meeting them, and ask your spirit team to help you recognize them when they come into your life. Okay? Now we have Uranus, Genius, and the corresponding tarot is the Tower. Yay! During this stage of the ascension process, you might hear the term, oh, I already discussed this actually. Remember I said when I was talking about the bifurcation and the two timelines? I knew I started talking about it later on, but anyway. So what does Spirit want to talk about here with the bifurcation? I already said a lot of this. Those on the higher timeline are the way showers. They're the examples for the lower timeline. Those on the higher timeline are laying the groundwork and are leaders in the ascension process. But it's also important to keep in mind that there are some people who are awakening now in this lifetime. They're not completely asleep. They're not, you know, they're probably not strictly in the 5D. I would say they're a 4D, 5D mix. But they have still agreed to return to help with the end of ascension. So, and they're not going to complete the ascension process in this lifetime, but they are awakening. So that's when you can find spiritualists who they are aware of these things and they're learning and growing, but they're not like, they still have more to go and they're not going to complete the process in this lifetime. So we have to be aware of that as well. Earlier when I was talking about discerning who, you know, you can trust and who you can listen to and stuff like that, they are still learning themselves as well. Oh, you know how Schumann's resonance has been all over the place lately too? So that has also been because of the separating of the two timelines and the increase in solar flares and the shifts and changes with Schumann's resonance. That's all connected with the bifurcation process and the separating of the two timelines. And that's why, like, if you are more in the middle, you're really going to feel those energy fluctuations a lot more because it's like the energy is pushing you to the higher timeline and making you shed the lower timeline. I already talked about how you're in that vice right now, and you're being forced to cut the cords and contracts to the lower energies and cycles on the lower timeline. Here we go with the connection with the Tower. Oh, I should have realized, but I was going by what I wrote. Okay, so remember, I just talked about that. You're going to be forced to cut those connections, forced to release the 3D stuff because Spirit is pushing you onto the higher timeline. Well, expect the Tower moments to come with it. Anything, anyone, any situation that is not meant to be on your path anymore, that is not able to come with you onto the higher timeline. I mean, they can still be in your life, but you might just not be as close with them. Anyone, anything that needs to come to an end, expect it to happen, and whether it happens gradually or dramatically, expect the Tower moments because they're going to happen in order to cut that stuff off, cut those people off, whatever it is. And there likely will be purging that comes along with it because how do you avoid that, really? The more that needs to be removed, the more Tower moments there's going to be, the more purging there's going to be. And honestly, there's more to it than that. I'm not going to discuss this right now. It's a whole nother topic. I'm going to discuss it in a future video. But I have learned recently about our parallel lives and alternate realities that are also playing out from our own soul. Because it's from our own soul, we feel the energy of the cords and contracts with those connections as well, and all of that is being cut off and purged. So there will be times that maybe you don't even understand why you're emotional, why you're purging, whatever it is, and it's because it's cords connected to one of your alternate realities or parallel versions of yourself, because it's all the same soul, even though it's a different reality. Yeah, I know that's confusing. I'm going to come back to that in a different video, but just know that if you have anything pulling you down to the lower timeline from your alternate realities as well, that's also in the process of being released. So this time period right now, especially with the distinction in the bifurcation process, it might feel more dramatic at times, and you might feel it more emotionally, and there might be all sorts of chaotic events happening around you. Uranus states, the sudden bolt of a surprise that causes chaos. So if that's what you're going through, this is what this is about. You should expect it. Try and go with the flow and work with it as much as you can, okay? This may not be a fun moment in time, but trust that it is leading you in the right direction, okay? This path is your soul journey and your soul's choice, like we talked about. At times, it may feel like, why me? Why do I have to go through this right now? But we have to accept that this is coming from the soul level, and it's not a human choice. It's soul will, like we discussed. For those on this ascension path, soul will overrides free will. So if there's anything that needs to be exposed or revealed, it's going to happen now. You'll be shaken awake. Your rose-colored glasses or blinders are going to be torn off your face for everyone on the ascension path. This will be in your personal lives as well as on a collective scale, on a national scale, on a global scale, in all ways. Like you're going to have the blinders come off in your personal life with people around you and situations that are not meant to remain. And you're also going to have it at the national, global, every other aspect of reality, okay? Seeing the truth about so many aspects of how the world works and how the dark has been running the world and controlling people and all of that stuff. If there are karmic situations for you or for your twin flame, those truths are going to be exposed and revealed to help bring those karmic cycles to an end. I will pause here to say that from what I have been told by Spirit directly myself, by Jesus directly myself, in combination with what I'm seeing spiritual teachers talk about now, there are going to be significant changes in the world by 2030. Jesus told me this in, I don't remember the exact year, but it was like 2021 or 2022. And I can't believe it's already 2025. But there are going to be significant changes happening in the world by 2030 already, in 5 years. And I do mean significant changes. Significant changes in how the world works and is run. And that is a huge aspect of the ascension process in shifting and changing and removing significant parts of the 3D and the 3D conditioning. So when Spirit and I are talking about these tower moments happening nationally and globally too, seeing truths about world leaders and governments and things happening in the bigger picture world, not just in our personal lives, not just in our communities. When these truths are being revealed, it might be traumatic to go through at the time, but it's serving a bigger purpose of changing the world in important and significant ways for the ascension process. If you are on the lower timeline and you choose to stay on the lower timeline by staying in that energy, it's not going to be as great of a process for you because you're going to be on that lower dark timeline. If you can rise above it, and if you can focus on seeing the bigger picture, and you can not allow yourself to be emotionally reacting to everything and being more, part of the higher timeline is also embodying the unconditional love with your twin flame journey that you're learning. It's embodying that on a bigger scale as well for the world around you, learning how to understand others, even if they're different for you. Let me briefly talk about a couple big major subjects that maybe you could say are taboo subjects in the world with gender identity and sexuality. I mean, they've always been around to a certain extent. Gender identity has increased more recently. Even autism, which is not related to that, but it's still differences in people, right? All of these things are all of these ways of being and living have grown more and more the last few decades. And there are reasons for it. There are reasons for it from the 3D level and from the 4D level and from the 5D level. From the 3D and 4D level, the reasons for more prevalence of some of this is it is connected to negative agendas that have been playing out for a long time, for decades, if not longer, probably longer, and I just don't know as much about what happened before, the 1900s. But there are negative agendas from the evil that's been running the world that have been playing out for a very long time that have caused a lot of these differences in people. But there are still physical causes to them that, because of various things that have affected them chemically, environmentally, or whatever. And so a lot of these people, like, yes, they're different, but it's not something like they just are, oh, I just feel like being like this one day. They are different because of these causes that were created by the dark agendas. Now, from the higher 5D timeline, the souls chose to experience that. They chose to come. Your soul can incarnate as male or female, right? So with sexuality, some souls that maybe spent more lifetimes being a woman chose to incarnate as a man, and maybe their sexuality is still as if they were a woman. So that results in like being gay or something like that. I hope I'm not confusing my words here because I'm speaking hypothetically. The same thing with gender identity. The souls who have chosen to, let me rephrase, because of this stage of history on Earth and the fact that a certain number of physical human bodies would have gender identity issues due to, oh, I know what that was. Sorry, I was like, what was that sound? Due to the physical causes created by the dark agenda timelines and what was done to humanity. Souls took that on and chose to experience it, or chose to be part of that process on Earth, all in a greater big picture effort of helping teach humanity about acceptance and unconditional love. So, hold on a second. I want to shut my bedroom door. The washer started, and I don't know how loudly it is for you guys. But anyway, so there have been nefarious causes that created these, I don't know what the right word would be to use, but these conditions, let's say, these conditions. But that doesn't make the person or the soul in the body bad. We have to be able to separate the political agendas and the causes from the higher purpose that the souls are coming in to use. They're coming in to use it as lessons to teach others about complete acceptance and unconditional love. So things like that are important to be able to see the bigger picture and understand, okay? Again, I went on a tangent and I don't even remember where I was when I started. So I'm just going to go back to what I wrote, okay? But I know I was talking about truths being revealed. Truth will be revealed on all levels, personal, national, globally, all that stuff. Uranus arrives to break the rules and smash established structures. This is what is playing out both politically and globally as well. The title of this card, Uranus, Genius. You must remember that however tumultuous life may be, while we are having these truths revealed in our personal and collective lives, while the rose-colored glasses are being torn off and everything we thought we knew is being undone. This is all part of a greater divine design, a divine genius at work. And that divine genius guiding us through, this ascension process. Uranus is the revolutionary planet, opening up channels to the higher mind and bringing about necessary changes which can no longer be resisted. Expect this on the individual and collective levels. Just as Uranus is detached and unemotional, you must learn to detach and see things from the higher perspective so that you can stay in control of your emotions and your emotions don't rule you. Such detachment is needed when everything is about to be turned upside down. One of the reasons souls experience life on Earth is because of experiencing emotions and human level things that don't exist at the higher levels. But in the ascension process, you are reintegrating your higher self and returning to those higher levels, so you have to learn how to master control of your emotions. A lot of this stuff is quoted directly from the book because it was just so perfect for what is going on at this time. So basically, if things are chaos in your personal life right now, it's because you're shedding all of the lower 3D stuff so that you can align with your highest 5D ascension timeline. I know I'm not using twin flame terminology a lot, but understand as well that your higher 5D ascension timeline is the same timeline as your twin flame union, okay? So this is aligning you with your twin flame union. Union is guaranteed for twin flames and twin flame masters, but on your higher timeline. So I would say, and my belief is that twin flames and twin flame masters, your souls have already chosen that you're ascending in this lifetime. Therefore, union is guaranteed. Therefore, you will align with your higher timeline. However, what did I say earlier? You can do this the easy way or you can do this the hard way. The more you are in resistance, the harder and more painful it's going to be. Well, being in resistance isn't just about the twin flame stuff. It's also about aligning with your higher timeline. If you are fighting the process of letting go of the 3D stuff and even letting go of the 4D stuff, if you're fighting the process of stepping into that 5D understanding and shedding the 3D conditioning, shedding the old version of yourself, going through the ego death, if you're in resistance to all that, it's going to take longer and it's going to be more painful aligning with your higher 5D timeline, which is also your twin flame journey timeline, which is also what leads you to union. I just had a thought. What was it? Oh, and is also the most healed version of yourself. Okay. I already discussed this, so I don't need to go in depth, but Uranus is also connected to the technological advancements and, you know, it being in good hands versus bad hands and the choice points and all of that stuff as well. Try to go with the flow and allow your life to be transformed. Those who try to control everything and resist changes will find it. I literally just talked about that. Look at this, and I already wrote it down. Everything may feel sped up or forced against your will, but it's the will of the divine and of your soul, and you need to remember that when you're struggling. It's your human who is struggling to comprehend it. Anticipate the changes to be both liberating and enlightening, even if they are also uncomfortable at times. It's funny because as I read what I wrote, a lot of it I have already talked about. I channeled it and wrote it, and then I'm also channeling it as I talk, and I'm covering things that I don't need to repeat, and I don't know that until I read it again. So sorry if there's a pause when I'm figuring that out. Okay, now we have the 5th house, creativity. And the corresponding tarot is the 6 of Cups, which is a reunion card on the twin flame journey. We need to reconnect with our inner child. We need to play. We need to be present. We need to bring joy and happiness into our daily lives. One of the biggest lessons that I've seen Spirit teach to all of my clients, to all twin flames, over the years, is that integrating joy into your life, making it a part of your daily life, is an important part of coming into inner union and preparing you for union. It's an important part of aligning yourself with your higher timeline. Even while waiting for your twin, you are not meant to be sitting around in despair and self-pity and, you know, being upset about being in separation and all of the 3D stuff that you're going through. A necessary lesson of this journey is detaching and surrendering, which includes making yourself happy and content every day and not feeling like you're sitting around waiting for your twin. Yes, you are waiting for your twin, because there's an aspect of yourself that is not fully complete without your twin, because it's like the two coming back into the whole. But at the same time, you're not meant to really feel like that. You are meant to reach a state of feeling whole and complete in yourself, so that you don't have any type of codependent type of need on your twin. You don't need your twin to feel, even though there is a level of I don't even know what the word is, to be honest, because it's like beyond this world. There's a level of bliss and happiness that comes with union with your twin that is almost indescribable and unexplainable. And that's the level of completeness that I'm talking about when I say that you're complete when you're in union with your twin. But before you can get to that, you have to be complete and in union with yourself first. And you have to no longer feel like you need your twin for that. You have to be happy and joyful in your life without them. You have to be successful and independent and just not in despair because, oh, where's my twin? Why am I still waiting for my twin? Where are they? Why are we still in separation? All of those types of questions. Yes, you are visualizing the outcome of union, but you are not focusing on waiting. You're not holding yourself back waiting. You are living your life. You're making yourself happy. You are trusting in the union. You're manifesting the union, but you are focusing on your inner union, happiness, contentment, and inner completion first and foremost. And that's part of your own spiritual rebirth process. Step 1 is being present in your day-to-day life and doing things that make you smile, make you laugh, and bring you joy. Whether that's doing fun activities you love or having quality time with family or friends, it doesn't matter what it is. Don't sit around waiting for your twin in order to be happy. And if you are, that's the first sign that you're not ready for union, and that I can tell you right now that your twin is not going to come into your life while you're in that type of energy. So Spirit will withhold your twin from your life while you're in that type of energy where you feel like you need them to be happy. You have to choose to be happy and make yourself happy on a daily basis first. Step 2 to inner union and the 5th house is the creativity component. It's following your life purpose path. It's, are you doing what you're meant to be doing, or are you slaving away just because you feel like you have to? We are not meant to live in the rat race here on Earth. That's part of how the darker beings controlling Earth steal our energy and our joy as well, by keeping people stuck in the rat race. Many awakened individuals cannot even exist in the rat race anymore, and I can attest to that myself. I'm pretty sure that my family doesn't understand me and I often feel like the black sheep, both because I live my life differently and also because I see the world in ways that they don't. And they can't wrap their heads around that or understand it or understand me a lot of the time. And I'm sharing all of this, even though I wrote it down, I'm still going to read it and share it again because I think it will help a lot of others. A lot of others. Oh my God, can I talk? But despite the fact that my, 3D blood family I feel like doesn't understand me, doesn't get me, or how I live my life or how I see the world. Like, I simply cannot not be me. I refuse to not be me. It's physically, mentally, emotionally painful to me to not be my true authentic self. You know, that it means that I'm not super close with them, but I can't live my life any other way. I can't suppress my true self. And being part of the rat race is part of that for me as well. Like, I used to work normal jobs, but and there are probably some that I could still tolerate, but a lot of them I can't work for someone else anymore. I have worked for myself in different capacities for over 10 years, and I even tried to work for someone else part-time recently because I thought that it would be a good part-time income, but I very quickly learned that I cannot, because she was just like too micromanaging. And even though I explained to her that I have more than one business, she got very demanding very quickly on like time. And I had already was clear to her in the first place that time is not something I have a ton of. And she had sold it to me as, you can do it on your time, and then that changed quickly. So anyway, that didn't last long, and it made me realize, like, I can't work for someone else, like, again. Like, I can only work for myself. And that's something that I have heard from other spiritualists, that a lot of awakened individuals can't exist in the rat race and can't work for other people because they are compelled to live their own authentic lives, true to themselves, and like taking direction or instruction from other people just doesn't work for them. One of the things for me too was like, I cannot like let other people tell me, you know, when or if I can take a day off or go on vacation or take care of my sick kids or whatever it is, you know, I just can't. The more pushed I feel, the more I stand in my power. And that's very true. I've been working for myself. Oh, I already talked about this a second ago. I simply can't tolerate anyone holding any power over me or directing my life in any capacity. And a lot of spiritual people and people on the awakening and ascension path are like that. I am my own person and I have to do things my way. Life purposes for many different people can easily be incorporated into careers, but they don't have to be. Don't be afraid to take risks to follow your aspirations, whatever they may be, okay? When we're doing what our souls are meant to do, trust that your spirit team will help you succeed and will help align everything that you need in order to be successful. If your life purpose is not as easily incorporated into a career, consider all your options. Oh, and I also should have said, you could also just like do it on the side and slowly build it up until it can replace your career. That's something else you can do too. Or you can do it as a hobby. But just don't ignore your life purpose. Don't ignore the creative calling that you have. What are you passionate about? That is your life purpose, okay? Your soul will always come calling, especially now during ascension. Consider all of your purposes too, because we also have more than one. We have our life purpose and we have our soul purpose, and our soul purpose is more on the psychic gifts and abilities and healing abilities. If you are awakening and ascending, then you are meant to explore those and work with them. Just be careful to learn how to do it safely, as I talked about the significance of negative entity interference. So you need to learn how to do it safely. And don't compare yourself to others as well. It's a false belief that everyone is capable of the same spiritual abilities, but that's not true. It depends on each person's soul development stage and soul history. Each of our souls, remember I talked about the Soul Mastery Program, the Twin Flame Mastery Program, the Ascended Master Mastery Program. Each of our souls are at different stages in the soul development process and have mastered different things. So what I am capable of is not exactly the same as what you are capable of, or other spiritual teachers and readers. Everyone is a little bit different. It's down to their soul development and where they're at in the soul development process. Not everyone is capable of all the same things. The false belief says that those gifts have just been turned off until they learn how to open them up and use them, or they learn how to remember them. But that's not true for every single person. It depends on where they're at in their soul development process. So don't be afraid, but do be informed and seek help and guidance when you need it. When we come into physical union with our twin flame, it is going to be a harmonious, interdependent relationship. That means you both have your own lives that you choose to merge together in a healthy way for both of you. You will not be dependent on each other or need each other for more than the love you have for each other and the passion and desire that comes along with that. You will each be your own person independently, not defined by the other person in any way, but complementing each other. So until that day comes, work on your fifth house, your inner union, stepping fully into your power, sovereignty, passions, purposes, strengths, and happiness, all on your own. When you start to reunite, be playful and lighthearted with each other and allow the sensual joy to reignite. Don't focus on the past, mistakes, flaws, misunderstandings, etc. You will work your way through all that it is as needed. And you must remember that no one is perfect, and this is an unconditional love like no other can possibly embody, because they are your other half, and you literally cannot break that cord no matter how much you try. Let the strength of the connection lead and create joy together, and worry about the 3D stuff when necessary when it comes up. You are an example for others on how to conduct yourself, how to live your life, how to work with spirit, and how to be in a twin flame relationship. You are building one of the new legacies that will show the world what it's meant to be like and how New Earth is going to be built. This is also a card that's a sign indicating the completion of a project and celebrations on their way. So the guidebook discusses if the fifth house also comes with the Saturn card or the Jupiter card, and it comes with both. So since both Saturn and Jupiter accompany this card, it actually perfectly reflects the twin flame journey. Saturn represents the low times, the dark nights of the soul, and the struggles during this spiritual rebirth process, while Jupiter represents the success and the recognition coming. These are all part of the journey. It's not a fairy tale journey like many people want to believe. You do not meet your twin flame and get swept off your feet and live happily ever after. Pulp culture is already trying to sell that story, but that's not what twin flames are, as most of you should know. That is what a soulmate is. That is not what a twin flame is. Your twin flame journey is a massive spiritual rebirth, like I said before, that makes you face the darkest parts of yourself, overcome and heal them, and then rise like a phoenix. You will have the happily ever after that Spirit has literally promised us, because we are ascending in this lifetime, and it is guaranteed unless you're a twin ray and you've agreed to come back for the next one. But if that's the case, then you're clearing up a lot of the karmic issues now and the spiritual warfare issues now in this lifetime, so that it's not a problem in the next one. I lost my spot. And then I was saying, because it's guaranteed, you will have the happily ever after with your twin flame, but not until after you get through all the hard work first and after you achieve inner union. Your twin flame is the catalyst for igniting the initiation into that hard work. And then after you meet your twin and they catalyze all of the spiritual metamorphosis that you're going through, then they're a carrot being dangled in front of you that pushes you to persevere through the journey, persevere through all the hard inner work until you complete the process. And when you complete the process and finish birthing the new version of yourself, then you get to receive the reward. Then you get to be in union. You both have to go through this, both sides. You might not realize what your twin flame is going through, but you're both going through it. And you are each other's carrot, so to speak. You are each other's reward that is helping to propel you through the process. It is worth it in the end because of how proud of yourself you will be and how amazed you will be at the person you've become when you get through to the other side. And then the relationship and likely the children who are meant to come from it as well are also represented by the 5th house, because the 5th house does represent children too. And I do feel that Spirit is speaking to that as well, because most twin flames are meant to have children because they're the golden children who are going to play major roles in the ascension process as well. It doesn't matter, like so many divine feminines worry about age and timing, but Spirit has told me that that doesn't matter with twin flames. That for one thing, twin flame divine feminines in particular will be fertile for longer than they realize. I honestly think women already are, and it's just like not well known because the medical community talks about geriatric pregnancy at 35. But I have heard many stories of women naturally conceiving in both their 40s and their 50s. And on top of that, as we ascend and integrate our crystalline light bodies, the aging process is slowing and fertility is going to last longer as well. So don't worry about that, basically. Trust that whatever is meant to happen will happen. And if you are meant to have children with your twin flame, you will. Also, though, sometimes our children with our twin flame, our soul children with our twin flame, souls, spirit babies who have been our children in other lifetimes with our twin flame, sometimes they come early through karmic partners. I have seen it happen both naturally and due to spiritual warfare. It can be very upsetting, especially when it's due to spiritual warfare, where the karmic partner basically like forced the pregnancy to happen using witchcraft or voodoo or other methods. But it's also still agreed upon by the souls involved to some capacity. There's healing needed, but it is still agreed upon by the souls because they're coming through for a reason, to help the parents get through their journey how they need to. Sometimes children come early through the karmic partners when their presence is needed in order to help defeat certain karmic cycles or to help guide the parents in some way through that stage of their lives and their twin flame journey. Those children will still feel the strong connection with their twin flame soul parent, even if they're not their biological parent. And they will have an easy, natural relationship with them. And lastly, the 5th house is also a card of mastery and victory in a deep way that you carry inside your heart. So all is possible, and in the process of unfolding, you just need to keep moving forward one step at a time. Okay. Next, we have Saturn return, age. And the corresponding tarot is the Judgment card. And it really, honestly, this card really goes along with what we've been talking about, particularly Uranus, okay? And the messages that came with the Uranus card, that was it was shaking you up, bringing in the Tower moments, creating chaos in order to rebuild and rebirth. Going along with all that Spirit has been discussing about the burning away of the lower energy cords and timelines, the Tower moments, and everything else. Whatever else needs to come up now, that in order to help you be fully aligned with your higher timeline and ascension path is going to happen. That the Saturn return is here to tell you that. It's here to shatter all illusions and clear away all 3D attachments, conditioning, and thinking. It's time to stop getting ready. It's time to stop getting ready or preparing to live your life, and it's time to start living it instead. To start putting action behind the goals, dreams, and intentions. Truth will be revealed wherever necessary in all aspects of life. Again, this will be both personally and collectively. In your individual lives, it doesn't have to just be about like people and relationships and situations. It can also be like things, like decluttering your house and your stuff and just getting rid of anything that you don't need anymore. Anything that's not essential. And emotionally and physically, depending on how much you need to purge, that can also be a bumpy process, as to be expected. You may run into obstacles when you think things are going in the right direction. But know that even when there's bumps in the road, look for the deeper meanings behind them so that you can understand and release them. But know and trust that everything's okay and is still moving in the right direction. The bumps in the road don't mean, you know, you're not moving in the right direction. They're just another wound or issue that needs to be faced and dealt with. Saturn is showing them to you for a reason. So figure out what that reason is and what the purpose to it is. This can also be a time of course correction. So wherever your life is not going according to plan, or where you've taken a detour because of free will or even interference, now is the time for those course corrections to occur. This may be difficult because sometimes I hear clients talk about how what they had planned for themselves isn't what is happening or what ended up happening. And it probably doesn't feel fair, but it's also inescapable at the same time. We are simply at a point in the ascension process where we can't hide from it. It's time to make a choice. Which timeline do you want to be on? And you have to know that when you're aligned with the higher timeline, things aren't necessarily going to go exactly how you planned them, because you planned them based on the 3D world around you and your 3D reality. Choosing the lower timeline doesn't mean you're going to hell. I felt the need to point that out. That's not how it works. With the Earth School, you don't actually go to a hell when you die. You reincarnate and you just keep doing this again until you learn all the lessons. Just like a different type of hell. Choosing the lower timeline means choosing the 3D life that you have planned for yourself, perhaps. But that also means choosing the lower energies that go along with it and that go along with the dark timeline. So that may or may not mean being happy, and that's something to keep in mind. If you're choosing the higher timeline, you're also choosing to go with the flow and allow things to unfold how they need to, and just trusting the divine plan, basically. You have to remember that things don't always work out exactly how we plan or exactly how we want them to, because this is a planet that's about lessons and growth above all else. And I already talked about this part about 3D planets. That the easy, happy life is not the normal here, even though we would like it to be. Every single person has no choice but to work through the grit and the grime and discover the true meanings of happiness and purpose of life on Earth, at least. So, you get to choose. Do you want to stay on this merry-go-round, or are you ready to choose the higher timeline? Well, I say you get to choose, but your soul did already choose. Now you just got to figure out what that was and go with it. In choosing the higher timeline and accepting the higher timeline, you must also recognize that the 3D way is not the way anymore, and it's rapidly changing. You are leaving all of that behind and living true to your soul and to the higher planes of knowledge, truth, and wisdom. It's the opposite of the 3D way. And it takes some getting used to, which also takes some time, of course. You have to strip away all of your previous schooling, so to speak, from society, culture, religion, family, and more. And you have to embody a new path, which is the road less taken. Many of us are in the process of paving that road. Many of us, like the spiritualists, the light workers, we are in the process of paving that road to make it easier for others to take, and to take it with less judgment and less harassment from others on the 3D path who don't understand the path that we're taking, because we're the black sheep, right? But whether you're paving that path yourself or you're following others doing it, just stay true to yourself, true to your authentic self, and don't let yourself be deterred. Or if you need to pause, but continue when you're ready. Not everyone around you is going to understand, but that's okay. If they truly love you unconditionally, then they will still be with you. I laugh because I'm like, oh, I just said that. I don't need to repeat it. If they truly love you unconditionally, they are not fully going to leave you. Hopefully, you can reach places with each of them where you can just not talk about the things that they don't understand, and they can accept you as you are and accept your life as it is. If they can't, then they're meant to leave your life, and you may go through a grieving process with that, but it is what it is, and it's part of this process of the bifurcation right now in the ascension process on Earth. It's not abandonment. It's simply each of you aligning with the paths that you are meant to take at this time in your lives. If you've heard the story about a reason, a season, or a lifetime, that is exactly true. Not everyone is meant to be in our lives forever, and that's okay. Don't hold it against them. Don't try to force them to. Each of us has our own specific soul journeys, and everyone is being guided down the soul journey that is meant for them and right for them. And if that takes you away from someone and you have a separation with someone in your life because of that, no matter who they are, that's okay, because that's what's meant to happen as you each are on your own soul journeys. Don't hold it against them. Just learn how to accept that and release them and that cycle and that connection when it's meant to come up. The only exception here would be with twin flames, but then you do go through the separation period. You just will find your way back together when you work through your healing process, and that's a different type of journey as well. But anyway, don't hold it against those people, and don't hold it against yourself either. Allow each of you to follow your true soul journeys and soul paths. Let go and hold space for them through unconditional love as well, without holding grudges or resentment. The corresponding tarot for this card is the Judgment card. But in the Tarot of Light, it's called the Awakening, and it holds a profound message. So I want to read that message to you also. You are coming into a complete union and alignment within yourself, the physical and spiritual merging into one. Until now, you've been looking at the world, your relationships and situations solely through your physical eyes. But your inner eye is awakening, and you are now seeing from a renewed, higher perspective. Your physical eyes see conditionally. Your spiritual eye sees unconditionally. Now you are to bring all three together for a fully unified, balanced view. See all that is possible beyond the fear and limitations of the 3D. Embrace and embody your spiritual eye and put your whole authentic self forward. Both Saturn and the Judgment card are here to tell you that the time has come. But you can either be swallowed up by the heaviness that can come with it, or you can let the light lift you up and shine the new way forward. One of the things that I want to quickly talk about here too with that, so I just talked about the soul journeys and how sometimes people are meant to leave your life. A couple real quick examples with karmic relationships and karmic marriages that are with a soulmate. Like toxic karmics are one thing, but there are a lot of twin flames who are married to soulmates that are karmic relationships, and they are not meant to last forever. And there's a lot of struggle in the twin flame community between people who don't understand how that works. You know, they're very attached to the 3D thinking, and they're attached to what we're taught by society and religion and culture, that it's a bad thing to get divorced. It's a bad thing to end those marriages, especially when there's kids involved. But this is where you need to come back around to that 5D understanding and realize that each of you has your own soul journeys. And when the time comes that you are meant to go your separate ways from a soulmate marriage, you need to remember that you each have your own soul path to follow, and there's nothing wrong with that. You are not doing something wrong by getting divorced. You are not like going against God or something. You are following, if you are the twin flame, you're following your path as a twin flame. You have gotten to this point doing what you're meant to do, following the path you're meant to live, and now it's time for you to diverge and follow your twin flame journey. And your spouse, your soulmate, They have their own. They might have their own twin flame journey, or they might have a different soulmate that they're going to meet. That's okay. It's okay. Like, I don't want to, I can't even think of other words to go on about this. I just want to emphasize that there is nothing wrong with ending relationships that have come to their natural soul level conclusion and are ready to go their separate ways for each of you to follow your soul journeys. And when it comes to children, do you want to teach your children to sacrifice themselves and to give up on their soul paths because of staying in a relationship out of obligation? Or do you want to teach them to be true to themselves and live the lives that they were meant to live? You can handle it in a way, in an amicable and peaceful way that is best for the kids and also teaches them to live true to themselves. And if it's a toxic relationship, then that's totally different anyway. So that's something that I've been saying for a while, and it felt very important to talk about now also. And trusting your soul path and your soul journey, and allowing the same for your spouse and for the other people involved. It doesn't mean that those relationships were never real in the first place. It just means that the time has come for them to naturally separate. And it also doesn't mean that anybody did anything wrong either. It's just natural soul path, soul journey stuff. It's no longer in alignment with your higher timeline. Outsiders who don't understand might try to make you feel guilty, but you need to silence their voices in your head and not allow them to affect you or get to you. You need to trust your own inner knowing and trust your own inner path and just ignore the outsiders who don't understand. They also don't understand that you are freeing the other person to be able to follow their own soul journey. And to be honest, your spouse might not understand it either at first, depending on how awakened they are, but they will realize that eventually. They will realize that after they've had time to heal and potentially meet their next soulmate or twin flame. This will ultimately only work out for the highest best for everyone involved, even if it is a tumultuous period in the meantime, okay? Nobody is meant to stay in any relationships or situations that are holding them back and preventing them from following their highest timeline or meeting the person or people who they are meant to be with. By people, I mean soul tribe. So just work through the struggles with that and trust the process, okay? Spirit is here to say that you know and understand things better now than you did even a year ago, and now is the time to see what you are made of. Be brave and face this important passage. There are no quick fixes with this. You know what needs to be done, and it's time to do it. You have it in you, and you have the support you need in the higher realms. You can do this. Okay, now we have the Grand Cross Provoker. It's very similar to what we've been talking about with Uranus and Saturn here. Nine of Wands is the corresponding tarot, and that's don't give up, keep persevering, keep pushing through. You can do this, you got this. Things may be getting tough as you face everything that Saturn is bringing in and Uranus is bringing in to shake things up, but you can make it through. As Saturn is here to shake things up, comes the Grand Cross to increase tension in the vice, pushing you to create the changes that you need to for yourself, to be active and to go about taking action in the ways that you need to in order to create those necessary changes in your life. That uncomfortable feeling that you felt is just going to get worse until you make those necessary changes. Like, as you know and feel what you need to do, Spirit is going to apply that pressure in the vice and make you feel more and more and more uncomfortable until you finally do it. When I wrote this, I was like, capiche? So I had to add that. This is about the pressure to grow and to exceed any limitations in your path. What do they always say? It's pressure that turns coal into diamonds, right? And similar analogies. That's what this is. Spirit is applying the pressure to turn and transform your 3D self into your 5D self, higher self. I lost my spot. Oh, there it is. I have seen how these learning cycles take place over time, and it tends to be over periods of a year. Like if you have a significant month, it can go from that significant month to a year later in that significant month. I've seen that very commonly happen in those ways. So you may see phases of these processes taking place in your life over seasons of time in a similar way. This is because, and I already touched on this, humans don't usually instantly learn something and integrate it overnight. It usually is a process of growth and rebuilding and testing to see how far you've come, and continuing to grow and continuing to learn and integrate, and then testing again. You should expect this so that you're not frustrated or disappointed when these cycles of lessons keep repeating themselves until you fully learn them, or until your twin flame fully learns them. You have to stop attaching yourself to time and wanting it to happen instantly, and you have to just let it flow how it needs to. During this period, you may feel like you're in the middle of a crisis of some kind, being pulled in different directions, an identity crisis, so to speak. The old you versus the new you, birthing your higher self, as discussed. How many of us have heard the term a midlife crisis? He's going through a midlife crisis. Maybe this is really what that is. It's the birthing of your true authentic self, and people who haven't gone through it just don't understand it, and that's why they call it a midlife crisis. But in reality, it's this. And it's really leading us to who and where we're meant to be. Existential crisis or not, a greater foundation of happiness and success is being built for your personal path. Let's pause and recognize that just as all of this reading has been about both the personal and the collective, the world is going through this as well. The old ways of the world are in the process of falling apart, and they are meant to. They are meant to at this time in history. I can tell you that in what year? 2020 or 2021, when I was talking to Jesus about, ascension and everything, the same time that Jesus told me that the world is going to change a lot through 2030, he also told me that the 2024 election was going to be a significant and pivotal election for the transformation of the governmental structures of the whole world, not just America, the whole world, but it's starting with America's basically. Many people are afraid of this, but you need to see the bigger picture and the higher plan at play here. It's also important to recognize that there are two agendas playing out. Oh, I already talked about this. So the negative globalist agenda is on the lower timeline, while the higher divine plan is with the higher timeline. And I already talked about a lot of this will look similar. You just have to recognize I already talked about all this. So you just have to pay attention to the intentions and the hearts and the energy of the people that are playing the larger roles in the formation of each of these timelines in the 3D reality. And of course, part of that is part of what affects their intentions and their energy is who and what spirits are guiding them. So you should expect that, the negative players running the negative timeline are, either possessed or connecting to negative evil beings, whereas those orchestrating and controlling the higher timeline They are connected to source, to the ascended masters, you know? We're already talked about a lot of this, but as I read, I see here another important point that I wrote. The truth is that any light worker, any light worker who is truly a warrior has had to walk through the dark, battle it, and is well acquainted with managing both the light and the dark, but they choose to remain with the light. So again, choice is at play here. And this is where I talked about faith untested is meaningless. You should expect your faith to be tested, your faith in your twin flame connection and your soul journey, your faith in spirit leading and guiding you correctly, your faith in yourself, your faith in the ascension process, and your ability to have blind faith at all. It all means nothing if it's left untested, and then you are truly choosing to remain in faith and to not allow the outside noise of fear, doubts, insecurities, or worries block your path, not turning away from the light due to any of them. It's hard to have blind faith, but it's also a necessary lesson on this path. So don't be afraid to let go and trust. And I know that I breezed through that part about any true light worker warrior has battled through the dark and is well acquainted with managing both. That's where I was talking about the lower and the higher timelines. Like the spiritualists who are most adept at maintaining the balance in their energy and staying on their higher timeline, like they have battled through the light and the dark, and they truly understand the difference, and they have a balance of that within them as well. They even have a balance of the light and dark. Not that there's an equal balance of the dark, but it's their understanding of it, and how they have integrated their understanding and knowledge of it as they have defeated it. And it allows them to understand that side in a way that they can see it more clearly and recognize it and discern it better, while also not allowing it to control or affect them. That makes sense. As you work through this grand cross, you should expect to have times when you feel frustrated, exasperated, provoked, pushed to your limits, pulled in a million directions, and more. You will be pushed in whatever way needed for you to align with the highest version of yourself. You will be directed to look within and analyze yourself, to expand your self-awareness and grow in healthy ways for yourself and everyone around you. Expect resistance, but as long as you're on track, momentum will grow and will be unstoppable. And I do want to, I wrote down something else that I wanted to add at the appropriate time, and I think now is the appropriate time. I kept talking about, the shedding of the 3D and all that stuff. I want to add in here, this is not as simple as lessons, though that is the most common way it is expressed in the way that I say it, I know. But the shedding of the 3D, the going through the lessons, the shadow work, the purging, everything that you guys are going through right now, in the shedding of in the ego death, and releasing all of the 3D stuff, and releasing the cords and contracts and connections to that lower energy timeline. It is literally the tearing down and destruction of your former set of beliefs and principles about how life should be. That's why it's so painful and hard and difficult, and that's why you're going through it right now, because the complete foundation of who you were and what you were built on is being torn down and destroyed to be rebuilt. When someone says stripping away the 3D conditioning, that's what this means: destroying the foundations of who you thought you were and what you thought life meant, in order to rebuild it from the spiritual perspective. That is why when I say it's not something that happens overnight, that's what I mean, because you don't tear down your set of beliefs and principles overnight and build a new foundation overnight. And also, it's really important to understand that this is happening for your twin flame too. It's not just you. Your twin flame is also going through this process, and they don't even know it. Like, you understand what you're going through. The divine feminines are more awake. They are able to hear this information and understand what they're going through. The divine masculines are much less likely to understand that. They're just being put through it. And it's a much even harder process for them. And they might have more resistance, which is probably why it takes them longer. I know I had a session with a healer in which she told me that for my twin flame, his process was really going through the destruction of the foundation of his belief system and, rebuilding it, based around everything he was learning from his side of the journey, from his karmic relationship and from our relationship. And that's really the case for many, if not most, twin flames because of the 3D conditioning from culture and society of what relationships in life are supposed to be like. So, where was I? That's why it doesn't happen overnight. Nobody goes to sleep one day with one belief system and wakes up the next day with a completely different one. It doesn't take weeks either. It's months at best and years at worst. That's why the twin flame journey takes time. And I know many twin flames that it's taken a decade or more. The younger waves, so to speak, or the more recent waves, because they don't necessarily have to be young. It can also be about when they're activated. They seem to go through it faster, but that's also because they've had many of the older waves paving the way for them and spreading the knowledge and teaching so that it's an easier process for them. Plus, I think the younger people are being born into these different concepts and ideals and principles, so it's an easier process for them to work through the metamorphosis. And they're more flexible as well. The older generations, the younger generations are literally born into ascension. So they are already born with that flexibility and resilience for these changes because of the time in history when they're being born. The older generations born before ascension, they're more stubborn and set in their ways as well. And they also have more decades of conditioning to be released as well. So it's a harder process. The younger generations don't have as many decades of being ingrained by society and the 3D conditioning. They're more malleable. I think it's funny that I say what I wrote and then I go back and read it and that's what I wrote. Okay, so now to wrap up the Grand Cross, I had a really beautiful message about the twin flame relationships here that I wrote down too. Your twin flame relationship will feel fated, F-A-T-E-D. And you will recognize that you cannot let go of this person no matter how hard it gets. You will both be asked to make sacrifices and compromises for and in this relationship, and many times you will feel like you are bumping your head against the wall. You will be challenged. If you try to walk away, you will always regret it. Thanks for that, Nala. If you try to walk away, you will always regret it, and frankly, you will never be able to fully let your twin flame go. In this relationship and in any other avenue you're guided down, be willing to do the work and go the distance. You too can and will stand the test of time. Overall, take stock of yourself and your life. Step into your strength and power and work through the hard lessons, focusing on maintaining inner peace and contentment. Okay, give me 1 second to open the door for her and then I'll do the last card. And the last card is quick too. The last card is Jupiter. What happened here? There it is. Jupiter, abundance, wheel of fortune. A breakthrough is going to happen as you're working through the Saturn and the Grand Cross process, when all of a sudden there will be a shift forward. It may be subtle or it may be like an earthquake. A good one though, a good earthquake, moving things in the right direction, because the Wheel of Fortune is about a breakthrough and positive forward movement. You will finally start to see positive changes taking place. You will likely feel the shift in the energy first before you start seeing the evidence unfold before your eyes. Jupiter shows up now to start opening doors. It's a planet of generosity and joyfulness, so share in the abundance that will start flowing to you and continue to grow through joy. Through your own positivity and goodwill, blocks will be removed from your path and you will receive divine help as well as good luck and good fortune. This is not here to replace any necessity for hard work. You are still expected to stick to what you've committed to, but just rest assured that the universe has your back. There's also a warning here. Don't let success or positive changes change your attitude and your convictions, your integrity, or your morality. Many people achieve success through shortcuts or by going to the wrong type of divine help. There's a reason why you can find so many spiritualists selling a deal with a demon, because a lot of people want to take the easy way. They want to take the fastest and easiest route that's going to get them what they want quicker without having to wait for it and without having to go through as much pain or as much hard work along the way. The people who buy these deals with demons are asking for the easy way to achieve money, love, fame, fortune, and sometimes even other things you wouldn't expect, like I have seen on Etsy before they started removing services. They're selling their souls in order to enter into these contracts, and it's a lie that you do not take on any karma when you're doing so either. So don't fall for their lies and their tricks to get you to try to take the easy way. They are seeking 3D successes or forcing things that are not aligned by the universe or by God. It may come through temporarily, but it will be short-lived and it will come at a price. Anyone who is truly on the ascension path would not be willing to pay that price. Always stay true to who you are deeply, and don't allow yourself to become deeply down to the soul level, and don't allow yourself to be compromised. Also understand how sometimes people unknowingly become compromised due to the rampant negative interference by entities. So be vigilant in protecting and clearing yourself, and in recognizing it, and in helping others as well. So to wrap up, no matter what stage you are at in your journey, know that Jupiter is here to assure you that the blessings are on their way and you will achieve them. Doors can and will open, and with generosity and faith, you can walk through them successfully. So that was much longer than I thought it would be, since part 2 is 2 hours. So it's 3.5 hours total. Oh my gosh. I'm not going to do the last 2 decks right now. It's just, they wouldn't take long, but it's just too crazy. I feel like, what's that? Is his name? Not David Wilcock with the 5-hour videos, ascension videos. And I don't want to make a habit of it, but like I said, this was all channeled and it took me a while to prepare. So I know Spirit wanted you guys to hear all this. So I'm going to do a separate video that will be shorter to go through the Akashic Records information for twins and the Oracle of the 7 Energies, okay? Thank you for listening. If you got through all of this, let me know if you have any questions. There was obviously, you know, Spirit wants to reassure you about the happy, positive outcome, but there is a lot of, with the Capricorn, Saturn, and Grand Cross, I really feel that a lot of people are heavy in the energies right now, going through that process of releasing all that is not meant for them anymore so that they can fully align with their highest timeline. So understand that if you're going through it, that's why, okay? Oh, hairball. So focus on that 5th house to bring joy and happiness into your life, to follow your soul path and your life purposes, and you can go back through and pay attention to all of the guidance and messages that Spirit had for you on what steps to take to align with the highest version of yourself and your highest timeline, and to integrate your higher self and find your way forward. Okay? So I hope this was helpful for you guys. I did not know how long it was going to be, but I hope this was helpful. I'm happy to be back, and I will talk to you more very soon.